forward. Stratosphere. We're getting out of here. Here's the guy that jabbed the entrance to the bridge. Have him held for questioning. I've got to get to a telephone. Okay, take him away, fellas. Hello. Hello, operator. Dick Tracy speaking. Get me the police airdrome. Hurry it up. Patrol plane trying to follow us. Rise above its ceiling. Level off. They can't climb any higher. We'll land at the power plant. Right? Okay, thank you. Police report that the wings disappeared into the stratosphere. Actually, they were unable to follow. Probably hover up there and descend at night. I've been questioning Bert. You know the fellow had his truck jammed on the bridge? Didn't get a thing out of it. You know, I have a hunch he's tied up in the spider. Sound disintegrator that nearly wrecked the bridge is a menace to the entire nation. It's vital that we destroy it within the shortest possible time. Well, you and Steve better go to the lab and see what you find of the back to Steve. Hey, lady, you can't come in here.
Young man, I report to your superior.
Yeah, but Mr. Tracy doesn't want to be bothered.
Well, you take your hands off of me. I never trust this young man in all my life. Which of you be Mr. Tracy?
I'm Mr. Tracy. What can I do for you?
Well, who are the other two?
These are my superiors, Miss,
Hankins and
That power plant belongs to...
That is the old Sierra Pacific plant. You don't use it no more. And I want that coming down investigated.
Well, I don't blame you. Thank you very much, Miss Jenkins. I'll see what can be done. Mike? Yeah, Chief. Mike, will you escort Mrs. Jenkins to the elevator? Come with me, Miss Jenkins. Come and talk. Full power plant. It's a wonder we ever get anything done. Yes, people obtain leads from stranger sources. I guess you're right, Chief. There can't be anything to that chatter. Perhaps not. Well, I'm working in my laboratory tonight. If I find anything, I'll let you know in the morning. All right, Chief. Yes? That G-man brother of mine messed things up at the bridge.
Don't talk of failure, Gordon. We can and must gain the power we seek.
I'll remain here with the wing until morning, then fly in with an ordinary plane.
Tomorrow, then.
Father against brother. One good, one evil. I wonder which will win.
We shall eliminate the G-Man.
You any lead on the whereabouts of Gordon? I can't tell you a thing, except that I feel certain my brother is alive. You attribute his disappearance to the spider ring. The spider ring is guilty of a great many crimes. He's got to wipe it out. Well, Dick, I see you're pretty busy. You know how it is. I'm sorry. I guess we'll be running along. Good luck, fella. Thanks. Good night. Good night. From the vacuum cleaning technique works closed, we can pretty well tell where the man has been in the past week. Check over that list, Wim.
Brick dust, 12%. Mustard seed pollen, 20%. Coal dust, 8%. Asbestos fibers, 43%.
Asbestos fibers. Where would a man be apt to get that much asbestos on? They might have worked in effect. Asbestos. Let me see.
Hey, Jack, let go of my ear. Junior.
Well, he run off while I was reading to it.
Young man, it's time for you to be in bed. Now run along with Mike.
Oh, can?
Junior! What was that expression you just used?
Ding dang?
Ding dang. That's what that little old lady said in my office this afternoon. How long would it take to drive to Sierra Pacific steam plant? Oh, we can make it by morning, what? Maybe a wild goose chase. But the pipes and boilers of a steam plant are usually well covered with asbestos. I'll see if I can dig up a watchman. You wait here. All right.
I won't take off until the coast is clear.
What do you want? Department of Justice investigator. I'd like to inspect this plant.
Sure. No reason why not. Can't see much, though. Plant's been closed down for a long time. See who it is. I'm not here to investigate.
No?
Okay. Philip, what's in that building? The place is locked, and I haven't the key. No. I see. Well, I guess we can skip it this time.
What's up?
We're being watched by a dozen guys. That's the spider's den, all right. Start the car and let's go.
Listen, Steve, when we go through that dip, I'm bailing out. Keep driving. Right. trying to wear that way. Taking off.
There's not much we can do about it.
Well, anyway, I destroyed the sound disintegrator. That menace has been removed.
I wonder where they can be taking the wind.
To make Bert talk, we'll find out.
Rise into the stratosphere before you set your course for our number 2 base.
I tell you, Bert, the law may show more leniency in your case if you give us the information we want.
What can I say when I don't know anything?
What about my brother, Gordon Tracy, who disappeared 2 months ago?
All right. What about him?
All right, boys, take him away. It's fortunate to be able to locate the headquarters of the Spider Ring.
Very bad, Gordon. Burke is yellow at heart, and if they sweat him, he might talk.
Bert knows we have made arrangements to get him out. We'll keep his mouth shut.
Then we can go ahead with our plans.
They are already underway. This time there will be no interference.
Did you get anything out of Burke?
No, not yet.
Doesn't he know where your brother is?
He does. He isn't telling.
But it doesn't seem possible for a man like Gordon to disappear without leaving some trace.
It'll work out somehow. How do you like your new radio, Junior?
Oh, gee, Mr. Tracy, it's swell.
Can I come in?
Certainly, Commander Brandon. Come right in.
Oh, hello, Junior.
Let's postpone this, friend.
How do you do, Mr. Andrews?
How do you do? Won't you sit down, Commander?
Thank you.
Well, is this a business call or social?
Business, Dick. Steamship Mauravania docks this afternoon. 1 full day ahead of schedule.
Well, there's nothing so bad about that.
No. The captain radioed that he expects trouble on his arrival.
What kind of trouble?
Furs. Valued at $1 million. The captain believes they're aboard his ship, and that there will be an attempt made to smuggle them into the country.
I'm afraid I wouldn't be of much help to you, Commander. See, that's out of my department. Besides, I'm concentrating on the Spider Ring right now.
I'd feel a whole lot better with you on the case. I hope I have better luck next time.
Thanks, Commander. Thanks for asking.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, sir.
Sign off now, but stand by for any message regarding the Mauravania.
You spoke out of China, Mr. Tracy?
Certainly sounded like it. What does your log chart say?
Well, that's the funny thing about it. There isn't that wavelength.
Oh, that's too low a wavelength for an established station.
Sounds like Russian or hog Latin or something. Maybe it's one of them Fiji Island discs. Hey, you know that might be Fiji. Down to Fiji Island. You know where they do that dance out of it?
Oh, Miss Lockwood. Something turned up, Steve?
Yes, this package was sent to the jail for Burke, so I brought it right over.
Let's examine it in the laboratory.
Can I go with you, Mr. Tracy?
No, that may be an international spy sending a message in code. You stick by the radio, Junior.
Junior, you better let me help you do that now.
Oh, no, you don't. Mr. Tracy told me to do it.
Gwen, I'd like to examine it in the X-ray.
I'll start with the key.
And you've got the whistle.
The X-ray doesn't...
Good evening, everyone. It is Monday, June 15th at 5 p.m. This is a meeting of the Oregon Village Board, which I'd like to call to order and request roll call, please.
Grenier,
Here.
Boudreaux, Bollig,
Here.
Staten,
Here.
Bretthauer,
Here.
Poole,
Here.
Carpenter. Here. That should be it.
Thank you. And item 3 is public appearances, and item A is to introduce our new fire chief. And Jack, if you please step up to the microphone there and say a few things about your background. And this is Jack Malarick. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did. Malarick is my last name, correct. Just if the N wasn't there is how I pronounce it.
Okay, great. Welcome.
Thanks. Thank you for having me. I apologize for not being able to make it last week.
You're forgiven.
Yeah, I was teasing a couple different people. I'll do anything to get out of a meeting. But like I said, luckily everything went well, and I've only been here 3 weeks. That was like the 5th or 6th day I was here, and I can tell the village that they're in good hands. That's a good group of guys. I had a couple opportunities to interview them beforehand and to talk to them and just kind of see what I was getting myself into. And that was one of the things I noticed right away was their passion and their care for the village and the job, and that definitely showed through right away. So it was nice to be a part of. It's unfortunate that it had to be in a situation like that where somebody had to lose something. But at the end of the day, everybody walked away unhurt, and good things happened in the sense of people working together and getting the job done. So I kind of take that theme into what I'm going to do here in Oregon. And when I say I mean the team working together, and I look forward to the challenge. I think it's an excellent community. I've only been here 3 weeks, but it seems longer than that already. No matter where you go in town, it seems like everybody's friendly and willing to say hi, and it's one of the nice things about the village. A little bit about myself. I suppose people are kind of wondering where I came from. I came from Ocano. It's about 30 miles north of Green Bay, and it's a city of about 4,500, but we protected 100 square miles there, which is a little bit different than here. I think it's about 40. But the operations are very similar. We did about 1,100 calls there, of which 80 to 90% were EMS related, and I think that's quite a bit like the Village of Oregon here. So I would, it's about the same amount of personnel too. I'll try to keep it brief here. I have 4 children. My wife and I have been married for 11 years. We have a son who's 9, and we have bear with me here, a daughter who is 7. It's on TV, I got to get this right. And another son who is 4, and then one that's 1.5, or whatever they do the month thing. I don't keep track until we start counting years. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me, and I'm always at the station Monday through Friday. I have some commitments back home yet with youth sports, so sometimes on Friday I cut out a little bit early, but Monday through Friday you will find me here. Most days I usually start about 6 in the morning, and I welcome anybody to stop in and talk and discuss any thoughts, comments, or concerns they have, and I'm excited to get started.
Good. Thanks. We certainly welcome you and are glad to have you here.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jack. Item B, review and approval of 2014 audit.
Steve, we could actually, if you want to do the pickleball thing, I think there's a number of people here for that. And Jill can wait. I mean, Jill's waiting for us.
Okay, sorry. That's just as I looked around.
Yeah.
Okay, they'll be on the phone.
I think he's actually more expecting us around 5:15 anyway, so. I think
So we'll go to item C?
Yep.
Okay, so item C is from the June 3rd Park Board meeting. Discussion of members of the community and possible action regarding fixing the tennis courts. Recommended motion from the Park Board is approve the use of operational funds of $23,000 to have the Midwest Seal Coat repair the tennis courts and the fence. So are there those who would like to talk about this?
Good afternoon, everybody.
Welcome.
My name is Mike Barone. I am a resident of the Village of Oregon. I've been here with my wife and my 3 children for about 20 years, coming on 20 years. This is Denny Fingerson. Denny is the contractor with Midwest Seal Coat. I'm coming to you in actually two points of reference. One is a resident, and with myself, the Johnsons, we've been pushing the pickleball agenda within the Village of Oregon. As you already know, and I won't digress too much, as you already know, we've approached the village to allow us to paint the Oak Street tennis courts with pickleball courts, which we have done at our own expense, and we've had a tremendous turnout since we've done that. Amy Miller from the school has graciously bought the nets for us and balls, And it's been a wonderful turnout. Last Tuesday, as a matter of fact, we had 5 courts going. We had over we had 22, 23 people that were out there that evening. But I'm coming to you as a citizen that's trying to drive the agenda. And the other side of me is that I am a professional engineer, professional civil engineer, and in the spirit for that expensive a license anymore. But I've been doing civil engineering for as long as I've been out of school, which was in 1978. You can do the math, it's been a long time. Denny is here as the contractor that submitted the proposal. As you know, and as you stated, we've gone through the park board. We sat down with them last week or the week before, whatever it was, and explained the process to them. And so we're here as a group to, again, request the board to consider the $23,000 to fix the tennis courts, and then have Denny as the expert here, and I'll back him up however we need to explain exactly what the process is and what the warranty is, and his experience, his range of experience with fixing tennis courts throughout the entire state of Wisconsin and actually beyond. So I'll turn it over to Denny.
Sure, thanks. Welcome, Denny.
Right, thank you. Yep, we use the right way tape system on the court, so all the major cracks and seams will be covered with this tape, which, you know, we'll guarantee you for 2 years. It's not a problem. I mean, a lot of the installations that we put in last 10, 15, 20 years. And it's the only way to fix the cracks in the type of environment we live in with the freeze-thaw cycles and everything. It's the only thing that actually works. You know, all the other stuff is just cosmetic and fails within the first 6 months or a year. So this I found that works the best. And along with fixing the fence, and you know, we'll basically have these tennis courts back, you know, just about to new condition.
So if I can add on to that, Denny, and I'll put on my civil engineer hat right now. When you look at the process that he uses, and these are asphalt tennis courts, and he would rather work on asphalt than in concrete for a couple different reasons, but let's just stick with the asphalt. Basically what he does is he goes in there and he routes out all these cracks, uses a high pressure washer, routes them out, and puts in a Portland cement material to fill the cracks. And then if you can think of, probably the best analogy would be like drywall. If you've ever done drywall, in his tape system, he puts a layer of tape, he puts some acrylic, he's wider layer of tape, more acrylic, and a wider layer of tape and more acrylic. And then he goes over the court with I think it's two coats of acrylic to level it out and fill in all the minute cracks, and then 2 coats of color, and then he goes over and he stripes the courts. And you mentioned 2 years, but I think your proposal actually says 3-year warranty with the village. Now, what he's also done is he's given a list of references, which I took it upon myself to talk to some of the references. 2 of the people I talked to, John Paulus from the Paulus Tennis Center in Madison. I called him back in April because Denny said he's done his courts. And John had nothing but glowing remarks to say about the tennis courts and the work that he's done. And then Jerome Klein in the back there with me, we went over and actually visited the courts. John was gracious enough to have us come over there. And we took some time and went over there and walked around his outdoor courts. He had asphalt courts also. And they're, I don't want to give anybody the false impression that these courts are going to be smooth as glass, brand new. They're not. But they are in, I'll say, substantially better condition. You may still get some small cracking, but these courts that John had were very, very fine courts. And John was extremely pleased with the workmanship of Denny and his crew and the results of the courts. He mentioned to me he thought he put them in about 4 to 5 years ago. And I don't know if that is right, but you didn't see a lot of the big wear and tear that I was expecting to see. And then I also talked to the Monona Grove school system, Mark Scullion. Talked to him back in April also. And my wife Colleen and I were actually bike riding along the Monona Loop trail yesterday, and we stopped over to see the courts. And those courts are about 5 or 6 years old, I think, in that neighborhood. They were showing some signs of cracks. And again, full disclosure here, I'm not trying to sell anything that we don't want. But there were some cracks, but they were for the most part 1/16 of an inch, maybe a couple were 1/4 of an inch, and they were still in very playable condition. When you look at our courts here, and I don't know how many of you folks have actually been out to the courts, they're in pretty bad shape. There's some cracks that are probably 2.5 to 3 inches in the middle of the tennis courts. The nets and the posts are coming right out, the foundations are coming right out of the courts. So they're in deplorable situations right now that I know our high school teams, or our high school team goes over there, and I think our JV team plays over there too. So it's pretty rough court that we have right now. Now, if you were to look at this in general and you say, well, you know, maybe we should fix these courts, I would probably agree that if you had $150,000 or $200,000, the right way to do this would be to rip it out, rip out the foundation, put in all new drainage, fix all the topography around there, and then build it back up with a proper foundation and a proper court. But that's somewhere in the neighborhood of $150,000 to $200,000 that I don't think anybody in the village has the stomach to do. Denny has a solution that I think will work, about $23,000. From what I've seen on the references and from what I've seen in person, this is I'll call it a stopgap, but it could be a long stopgap to give us playable courts, to make us proud of what we put our high schoolers on, and give us an opportunity to expand the courts for dual use, the pickleball, which seems to be growing, and the tennis group. And it would be my professional recommendation that we would look very closely at this and spend the money, because Denny is warranting these courts for 3 years. And that buys us 3 years for $23,000. It buys us 3 years of the courts being in good shape, to understand if we want to do a long-term replacement or repair, and also to give our some pride around everything else we're doing with the Village of Oregon and the whole school district, and give our kids something that's worth playing on.
Next, so questions and comments from trustees? Jerry?
Yeah, I have a question for Denny. Denny, what kind of life can we actually expect out of this repair?
Easily 10 to 15 years.
10 to 15?
Yeah, you'll get that much out of it.
Okay.
I mean, in all my years of working, we've never like say work on a court this year and then 2 or 3 years later they have to tear them out. That's never happened.
Okay, so even given the condition that it is in right now, you still think we'll get 10 to 15?
Yeah, it will.
That's pretty good. Okay, and then so it's $23,000. I see you added $1,000.
That was for the fence. There's a fence work on the
On the west side.
West side there.
Yeah, I asked Denny, if you look at the fence on the west side, because of the way the water slopes off toward the west, and we need to do some grading work there.
Okay.
The water kind of builds up, and over the course of the winters and the summers, the fence posts, the fence foundations have actually heaved up a little bit. So they do need to be repaired in that area. So I asked Denny to put an allowance in there. If we want to do it, it's there. If we don't, then that's fine.
Okay, so the actual life, then again, is probably 10 to 15. And a question for Mike. Mike, where will the money come from for this? Is this budgeted?
In 2015?
Yeah.
No, but it's in the draft capital improvement plan for full reconstruction next year, $165,000. I mean, it's not, we obviously the board hasn't approved that or borrowed the money, but that's in the capital improvement plan. So I sort of looked at, and I figured you were gonna ask me that question, Jerry, or somebody was gonna ask me. So right now, we budgeted $29,000 in the operating supply budget in the general fund for the parks, and Gary has spent about $25,000. So the question is if you want to do it this year, would it come out of operation or try to find it out of the 414 account, which is the capital? The other issue is, when Mark and I were talking about this today, we sort of thought about this. We wonder whether or not the board could just approve this proposal without actually getting some other proposals, because it's over $10,000. It raises the issue, because it's not. I don't think this is really considered professional services, so I don't believe so. It's a fine line there.
So we'd have to have Matt take a look at that?
Yeah, whether or not we could legally just accept the proposal without actually getting other proposals, yeah.
Yeah, and I understand the way that works. I just want to throw this out. Gary, last week at the Parks and Rec meeting, he had mentioned that he went out and solicited 2 other bids. One did not want to bid at all, and the other never submitted a bid.
Okay.
Now, I know in my world, when I used to work, if I had bids that were not solicited, as long as I could document them, that counted for the 3.
Okay.
I'm not sure how that works within the
No,
village.
I didn't realize that. Thank you.
Okay.
So that works?
If that's, yep.
Okay.
But, so that goes back to Jerry's question.
So
is-
any motion then would have to be contingent upon the attorney reviewing it?
Well, no, I
Is that-
think if that's true, I didn't realize it, then Gary tried to get other proposals, but
Okay.
couldn't. And,
Okay.
so the question is, does the board wants to spend it this year, then, or, sorry, do the project this year and spend the money? We're gonna have, we don't have $23,000.
Right.
We'd have to figure out how to pay for it. It's gonna mainly come out of the park budget, which means that and I'll give you an example here. In that fund, we were gonna buy $10,500 worth of bleachers, do some fence upgrades, some additional wood chips. So some of that, obviously, we wouldn't be able to do this year and do this instead. But then going forward, if it's true what's being said, I'm sure it is, then we could pull the tennis court out of the 5-year plan then.
Yeah, which would be nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And Mark, do you think it'd be a problem for Gary to get written estimates from people?
I'll verify what they just said. I'm sure he did, because he's well aware of the process of how we do things around here, so.
So it sounds like that's covered.
I'm actually thinking that maybe that was one of those emails he sent to us about this. Now I'm thinking about it. It's possible. Like Gary said, he tried to get some, I don't remember off the top of my head. So.
So just verify it, Jerry.
Yeah, I don't, I'm sure that part's true. I think now the issue is, do you want to do it this year or try to budget for it next year? That's more of a question off for the board.
Final question for Denny. Denny, what would have to happen to cause the warranty to come into play? Does warranty specify how bad the damage is?
Everything that we're gonna do is like a crack, say a crack is 10 foot long. When we fill a crack, we'll go a couple feet beyond where it is. And then there's a possibility, like over the next few years, you could get a little growth in that crack, which it's easy to fix that. It's not a problem, but as far as failure, I don't see, there's no chance of failure.
Is it 2 or 3 years for a warranty?
3 years, I guess.
Okay,
yeah.
so what would have to happen in the first 3 years for you to consider it a failure?
I guess you to call me up and say all the tape is bubbled and blistered and blowing in the wind and people are tripping and the color is faded and
like
ripped
now.
off. Yeah, so, yeah. I mean, like I said,
That's
in all
how
my
we
years,
play pickleball down here.
in all my years, I've never seen a failure at all. I mean, I run into this, a lot of people want to know, and I mean, we've got courts out there that we've done 8 years ago, and they're still going good.
So if this gets approved, how long do you think it'll take? When do you think folks could play pickleball?
Well, I said, we're probably about a month out right now to get started, but we would take, probably 7 to 10 days if we had 7 to 10 good days in a row instead of working one day and off 3, and we've been doing it in the past.
So hopefully August 1st, if you got the go-ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any more questions.
Okay, anybody else?
Now, is this for the big tennis court or by the high school?
No, this is the court on Oak Street. With
Oh,
the 3
that
tennis
one,
courts.
okay, that's what I
Yes.
thought.
By
Okay.
Prairie View and Netherwood.
Okay,
Exactly.
the smaller one.
Yes.
So Mark, is the lighting still good over there?
Yes.
It's still working?
We use the lighting. Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right,
That's why it's very popular because of the lighting.
all right.
Yeah, so my concern was if we spend $23,000 now and have to come back in 3 or 4 years and we don't do the rebuild and then had to do the rebuild then because this didn't work, that then the $23,000 is kind of money down the drain. But this last, like Denny talks about, and you've visited some places, that gives me a lot more sense of ease about doing this. We've wanted this tennis courts done for a long time, and it's hard to find the money.
Yeah, absolutely, and again, in the spirit of full disclosure, if we still have to do something with the topography around the west side, and talking to Gary, he said it's no big deal to grade that out a little bit more and make sure that water drains that's on the tennis court, and that's gonna be key, that it drains off of the tennis court. So again, as I said, if we had the money, you wanna rebuild fully, that would be the way to do it, but this is a great methodology to use and buy us some time, maybe allow us to do some other things with the capital budget that you have, and if we can get 3 years or 5 years or 7 years, that's more than we've had in the past, and it gives us a chance to grow some of the other parts of the village.
How big of a core of players do you think there is now that would use this?
There's a tremendous amount of interest. I would tell you that we have had, over the last 4 weeks, we've averaged about 4 courts playing full time for 2 to 3 hours.
Okay.
Last week, we had 5 courts going. And pickleball is actually one of the fastest growing sports in America right now, because they play it in the school system. Tom Miller, I saw, came in he's in the back here, and he remembers teaching it when he was in the school district. And we have some youngsters that come out that are 12, 13 years old. We've had some folks that are probably in their 70s come out. So it's a whole range of people.
That's not old.
And please come on out. I encourage you. We're going to be out there tomorrow night. We have paddles, balls, and nets, and we'll teach you how to play.
So does this make people faster? Because I know that would help Tom a lot.
I don't know if it makes them faster, but it makes them thirstier by the end of the night.
We're asked to put pickleball on all the courts. I mean, like, we've been doing Fort Atkinson's courts for the last 20 years, and anyway, we completed a couple of those maybe 3 years ago, and Scott just called me today, and he goes, "We want pickleball put on 2 of the 4 courts again," because he said we have people asking all the time. So it's definitely a growing thing that they want it on all the courts now.
And we would put 6 pickleball courts on the 3 tennis courts,
Yep.
as we have right now. If you go out there, we have 3
That
out
sounds like
6
fun.
courts
I
out.
like it. Try it.
Fantastic.
Anybody wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I have a final question for staff after it gets seconded.
Okay. So motion to accept the proposal for
I make a
$23,000.
motion to accept the proposal as is and authorize staff to transfer the funds to this project.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Do you have a written warranty then you could provide to staff?
Did I bring one last time?
No, I don't have one for
Okay.
But we'll have to do
I
a
think they
contract,
would
the
want
warranty will
that.
be with
Yeah,
it, so.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just would like the staff to approve the warranty.
Yeah.
Since we don't have it before us right
Sure.
now.
Oh, I do have one question for Mike. On his proposal, it says 50% down with the signed contract. Do we do that?
Sometimes, I mean, we typically don't do that because, we pay our bills. We're not a private company, but if the board approves this, you're basically approving the 50%
Do
down.
that? Okay, that's not gonna
I think it's okay.
have any issues with anything? Okay.
And Mark will check on the 3 quotes.
Okay.
Anything else?
I have a question. Now, the tennis court that's over at the high school, that is owned by the high school then?
Yes.
They have to do that themselves?
Yeah, correct.
Okay,
Those have all been rebuilt, so,
okay.
yeah, that's all stuff. Anything else? Okay, we have motion and second to approve the proposal for $23,000 for rebuilding the tennis courts. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thanks.
Thank you.
I appreciate your approach, and I appreciate the way you worked through the process to make it work, and your real good presentation tonight, too. And,
Thank you
thanks,
very much.
Kenny, also for
Next-
coming along to help
next
out.
steps, What happens now? How does it go forward?
Proposal, the contract would come from Denny to staff.
Right.
And then that starts the process.
Sign
I'll
it
work
and-
with Mark on the time to get it done. I'll sign the contract, and away we go.
And we need to get you the warranty.
Well, the warranty be part of the contract.
It should be.
Yes,
sure.
yeah,
Okay, so you can make sure that's.
Yep.
yeah,
Okay, great.
okay.
And can I ask a question? When do you play it?
We play Tuesday nights and Thursday nights at 6:30,
Okay,
weather permitting. And then there's people out there all the time. We've been out there 3, 4, 5 times a week.
and you don't charge at all?
No. You
Just
see
fun.
us playing, stop by. We're gonna put a paddle in your hand and you're gonna be playing.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did anyone else want to comment who was here? It looked like they kind of took care of everything, and you got what you came for us, so, okay, great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
I was trying to see Jill's. I'm just getting the auditor on the phone, Steve.
Yeah, so we're looking at going back to 3B for the auditors, so that's what Mike is doing.
I'll put it over there. Hey, Joe, it's Mike Grace. How you doing? I'm gonna put you on the speakerphone. I have the board here. 1 second, please. Okay, Joe, you still there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, welcome, Joe.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Joe Haas. I'm the audit manager in charge of the village's audit. And in your packet, you should have a couple documents from me. One is, looks like a memo, which has got some information on there, and there should be 3 graphs. And I'll just go through the memo and kind of refer to the graphs as I go.
Okay.
The first thing I want to talk about is the general fund. The general fund balance increased $143,000 from 2013. And the general fund balance at the end of 2014 was $2,380,000, of which $1,699,000 was unassigned. And the unassigned portion of your fund balance represents about 30% of your total general fund expenses. So the general fund's fund balance is broken down into several categories, mostly related to how easily they can be used. Some are non-spendable, some are assigned to various things. So you have $1.6 million of your fund balance that's unassigned or available for use. And that represents about 30% of your annual expenditures, which is a benchmark that a lot of municipalities look at, and usually anything over 25% is good. So you guys, your fund balance is in a good spot. If you look at the first chart there, it says Village of Oregon General Fund Balance, and the blue bars are the total general fund balance over the last 5 years, and you can see it steadily increases. And the red bars are the unassigned portion of your fund balance, and you can see that fluctuates from year to year based on certain things. But at the end of 14, they're both in a strong position. Moving on in the memo, the next paragraph, the general fund revenues were over budget by $314,000, but expenses were also over budget by about $160,000. The village does a good job monitoring the budget and making amendments, but in 2014 there was some unexpected legal expenses that resulted in the budget being overspent. Now, in total, everything was okay. There was plenty of additional revenue to cover that, but since there wasn't an amendment done for those expenses, we did have to include a finding in our audit report that said that it was overspent. We also included a management response that sort of explained the situation. So I don't think going forward there should be any ramifications of that. It's just something that we had to report. And the next 2 graphs show the general fund revenue and general fund expenditures, kind of the breakdown of where money comes from and how it's spent. The first graph there is the revenue for the year, and you can see that about 68% of the revenue in the general fund comes from taxes and special assessments. And the next largest portion, 17%, comes from intergovernmental revenue, which is the shared revenue from the state and transportation aid, things along that line. Then the next graph shows the 2014 general fund expenditures. You can see about 44% of the expenses goes to public safety, 19 goes to general government, and about 20 goes to leisure activities, which is park, recreation, education. And then back to the memo, the net position of the village as a whole is $127 million, which represents the total assets less liabilities. And that's everything combined together. All the funds, all the assets, all the debt taken into consideration. So that's a strong net position. Moving on, I just want to talk about the water utility quick. The PSC, the Public Service Commission, uses rate of return to judge sort of the health of the water utility and if the rates are set appropriately. You can see on the memo there the water rate of return for the last 3 years. 2014 it was 4.7%, 13 6.6, 2012 8.5. Now the state average of the rate of return is about 2 to 3%. So relative to that, you guys are in a good position. But over the last 10 years, the 4.7% is probably the lowest your rate of return has been. You guys usually try to hover between 5 to 8%. So there's a couple of ways to remedy that, and increasing rates is one of them. And I'll just talk about different ways the rates can be increased. There's a simplified rate increase, and your last one of those was done in 2011. And there's a full rate increase, and the last time you did that was 2004. So a simplified rate increase, it increases everything by a flat 3%, and it's much less administrative work. And a full rate increase takes a more in-depth look into all aspects of the utility, and it looks at what revenue should be, and it adjusts the rates accordingly. So I would say that over the last 10 years, periodically you've done simplified rate increases, which has kept your rate of return high. And usually you only have to do a full rate increase if it's been a while since any any rate increases done, or if there's a large project coming up that you know you're going to need additional revenue for. So last time you did a simplified one in 2011, your rate of return was in the 5.5%, and now it's at 4.7%. So I think it's just something to talk about and maybe look into a possible rate increase. And then the next point there on the memo, besides the budget finding I mentioned before, we didn't notice any compliance violations or internal control issues during the audit. And then finally, we'd just like to thank Lisa and Mike and the staff for all their hard work. Lisa was very prepared for us, so it makes things go very smoothly when we're there. So that's all I have, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Any questions, anyone? Jerry?
Hi, Joe, this is Jerry Bollig. I got a question about fund balance. I see the fund balance increased significantly in 2014. And fortunately, it looks like unassigned fund balance increased accordingly. Do you have an explanation for that? It just,
I was having a little trouble hearing that. Mike, can you just repeat
Sure.
that?
What Trustee Bollocks is asking for Joe is explain why the fund balance went up last year.
From 13 to 14?
Yes, correct.
Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you exactly why it went up.
I think part of it is the ATC money.
Oh, okay.
So we had the unexpected legal expenses that Joe was talking about, but then we had the unexpected revenue from the easements we sold to ATC, which.
So that would explain why the unassigned.
That's part of it.
It is similar.
Yeah, the unassigned, the general fund has some advances that it owes different funds. And when those are paid off or increase or decrease, that changes the unassigned fund balance. And I think that's what part of the increase from 13 and 14 in the unassigned fund balance was.
Yeah. Other questions? Anyone, trustees? I don't see any more questions, Joe.
Okay.
So thanks for your report, and like you, we like to thank Mike and Lisa for the good job they do in making this all work well for us, so.
All right, thank you.
And thanks for your good work. Good night.
Yep, good night.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, we'll go on to 3D, discussion with Jamie Bush regarding additional TIF assistance for building.
We should accept the audit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Trying to get this done.
I'll move to accept.
Second.
I should know after 9 years, right? So any further discussion or questions? Motion second, we have to approve the audit. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. So item D, discussion with Jamie Bush regarding additional TIF assistance for building the banquet hall at Headquarters Restaurant in TIF number 4. Jamie, welcome.
Small army dance group with John Orphan College. Dave's actually at the Polaris Sport.
Okay.
Got you.
That's all you need.
That's all I need. What would you like from me? I know that I sent the letter.
Yep, so Jamie and I met Matt and I first communicated the board's offer to Jamie on Tuesday or Wednesday last week, and then Jamie came and we met, and then I asked him to put in writing, which is in your packet, his proposal that essentially if the village granted him a $68,000 TIF loan, he would not ask for that funding until he was able to occupy the building. And that if the village had to take a loan out, the interest on that loan would not be paid by the TIF, but paid by the partnership. That's basically it. Yeah.
And Dave Wittenbach also sent along a letter. Was that also
Yes, I'm sorry, yep. Explaining about the letter of credit.
There seems to be some, there was a thought that if the letter of credit went away, that would open up a borrowing capacity, but it wasn't the case, because in this case, that letter of credit is being held by my grandmother's retirement account. I'm not taking my grandmother's retirement account away from her. So, because it has a zero balance, it was never something we were ever planning on using, because we always planned on building the banquet facility. So it was sort of a placeholder until we could figure out a way to make it happen. So it was never intentionally, it was not actually an asset. It wasn't mine, it was actually a premise. So, if that explains that piece.
Yeah. that was something we felt we needed to explore.
Yeah, no, when I talked to Matt about it, I'm like, that's not what it is. It's not
Yeah.
sitting on like a pile of money in like rock or something.
Yeah. Did you have a question, Jerry?
Actually, I do. I'm just trying to decide how to phrase it. Actually, I'll ask staff a question first. We're talking $68,000 here.
That's what Jamie's asking for, correct?
Do we have that amount of funds in the TIF?
No, TIF, just like the downtown TIF 4 is a distressed TIF, so we'd have to borrow for that.
Okay.
Because and I explained this to Jamie, so he builds it and he gets it built by, he's also, I should also indicate he's asking maybe for a couple of months extension on the.
Because of Dan, if you remember last week, he thought December, so I said, can we get 2 months just so we're not walking in here mid-December going, we got pushed back 2 weeks, we're January 15th, let's just make that window a little bigger, so I asked for 2-month extension.
Right, so which could affect even more when we'll see the full value hit the assess roll, and that's why I have the table in there, assuming that the banquet hall is actually built by the end of the year. We would not get any increment from the banquet hall in 2016. It wouldn't happen until 2017.
So we'd have to do some borrowing?
We'd most likely have to borrow.
Okay, in what manner?
It probably a state trust fund loan or a local bank loan.
Okay.
And then
You see that as a problem?
No, because no matter what, the village, the point I was trying to make, the village is gonna have to cover some of the money. We're covering some of the initial loan already until the increments there. Now we're gonna you're gonna have to cover more. What Jamie's offering to do is to pay the interest on the loan, but the village will be fronting this loan for 3 to 4 years.
Okay. And as I understand it, Jamie, this, the amount you're asking for now consists of a $50,000 loan that you.
When we first did this,
your final construction draw and about $18,000 in the parking lot.
The extra asphalt.
Okay. Is that something you could document for staff?
Yeah, I mean, Dan might have given something, I don't know if he has. I mean, I know I've given the documentation.
I don't think I've seen that.
Well, I can, so, yeah.
Or maybe I did, I'm not sure.
The only reason I ask is we've got that but-for qualification whenever we do TIF funding. In other words, but for this assistance, the project wouldn't happen. And the way I see it, if you can provide this documentation, that'll satisfy the but-for, so.
Good point, Jerry.
Okay. So it sounds like we can do the financing.
And so after Matt looked at Jamie's last email to me, he and I talked about it, because he couldn't be here tonight, and he really said, at this point, it's the board's, obviously, it's always the board's decision. It really is the board's decision, what do you want to do with this? Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and as I recall, it's like a 7-year payback?
Well, if you look at I don't have my pad up, but it's under 3D.
Right.
It shows you, but again, this is assuming that 1/1/16, the banquet hall is there and he's occupying it. So you're looking at 2021, 2020, somewhere in there. What will happen, thank you, Mickey, what will happen eventually is that some more of the increment from the restaurant will start paying off the banquet. So it's like I said, it's I would say about a 4-year payback for the village.
I think I understand why the 1/1/16 is important, because that starts the property tax clock.
Yep. The full value hits.
The full value hits, and that way that'll be due in 17.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you wait into 16, then
right,
it'll
but,
delay it.
But even if he's 2 months, 90 or some percent of the building will probably be done, but that's a whole month. But it will delay that a little bit possibly. The thing is, when you look at this analysis, we're holding the tax rate at $20.14, which is probably not it's gonna go up or down probably the next 4 or 5 years. We're using a 1% increase on the value of the restaurant, the banquet hall. These are pretty conservative numbers, and typically we do that when we do the TIF analysis.
Still, that's a pretty quick payback.
It's not, I think it's pretty healthy, yeah. And I think the fact that, I think Jamie's idea was worthwhile, or it was a good idea that rather than village giving them the money, or him the money while he's building it, we don't give him that loan until the banquet hall's done.
Right.
And he's moving into it.
No, I remember when Jamie first brought the whole project forward, that was a big part of this. The banquet hall was key to everyone's decision, at least most people's decision on this. So I support this project. I'll bow to any other questions now.
Anyone else?
I have a question. I'm new to the board since headquarters was built, but I was asked a question by somebody in the community. I didn't have the answer to it, so this is an education piece for me. When the original TIF was negotiated for the building of headquarters, was the banquet hall part of that conversation?
It was.
And just catch me up, because I wasn't at the last board meeting. So what's caused you to come back to the board to ask for additional TIF money beyond what was originally agreed to?
We have some time.
And if this is a recap for everybody else, then that's fine.
So 2012, we originally started the project, or brought the project to the board. We had some problems with getting the land, the value of the land, what the land was actually assessed at, how much it would cost to make the land buildable. When we did our original site testing, we found that it was very poor soil conditions, clay, and then water table at about 4.5 feet. We actually looked at another lot actually adjacent to it. That lot, actually, we were moving forward on that lot until Lynn Dusterbeck from Jamesville actually came in and said that Oregon was blighted and took a 20% hit on the entire project. So we actually moved away from that project. We couldn't get the financing. We went back to this project on this site. Brett was actually at the head of the chamber, and he actually convinced me to make one more run at this. When we did that last run, we went back and we said, what do we know? And the problem is the knowns when you're dealing with soil. We knew we were going to have to surcharge the soil. We knew that, but we didn't know anything beyond that. And when I sat in front of the board, I said, I know there's going to be other problems. I just don't know what they're going to be. But without any knowledge of what they are, we couldn't request anything. We were basically saying the only thing we know we can request is the surcharge. So that was all we could request. And that put us literally to the apex of our budget. We had no room for anything else. So then when we started actually moving soil and the DNR showed up and they said, we think that this may be a wetland, but we need all of your testing that had originally been done in 2006, but they have a window of 5 years that they're allowed to actually decide. If it's within 5 years, they cannot come back. If it's after 5 years, they have the option to come back. They came back, and in 2011, I think UB&T actually scraped the entire soil off and actually raised it out of the floodplain. So I mean, I'm like, 2 years ago they just did this. So I brought that to the DNR, and they said, oh, well, if that happened, then it can't be, so we'll give you your thing. And they kept delaying our process, and we kept having to ask for extra engineering. If you're actually, Mark and I were having a conversation with some pictures that we showed them, and we sent letters back and forth, and they kept telling us it was gonna happen, and they kept delaying us, and so we kept getting further pushback, then there was extra cost because they wanted more engineering. Then we actually ended up having to redelineate the entire site. We had to start from square one, and they went, okay, it's not a wetland. This ended up being about a 3.5-month delay, pushed us actually then no longer into building in the middle of the summer. We actually broke ground in mid-September. If you remember that winter, it was the winter where we actually went 120 days, never going above 0 degrees or above 30 degrees. We had to run 3 heaters nonstop all winter long. I was getting $4,000 to $5,000 electric bills or gas bills just to run these to stop our pipes from freezing. So we had all this going on. We were running snow removal. We had to redo our parking lot in 2 different phases because they couldn't get asphalt anymore because it was too late in the season. So they were like, or we could open without asphalt. I thought trying to open without asphalt in the middle of Wisconsin winter was a poor idea. In the end, it ended up pushing us about $200,000 over our budget. Well, Dave at UB&T, they were sort of on the hook because we were doing an SBO 504 loan. So with that type of loan, the SBA comes in and actually states to you, how much is it going to cost and how much are you going to do? And then they wait until after you open and they prove. You have to prove what you're doing. And if you aren't honest with them and you can't show that what you said you were going to do is what you did, they won't fund you. So then the bank is on the hook for the whole thing. They don't have this government like
guarantee.
Yeah, exactly. So the bank was, they were motivated. They were motivated to help me get the doors open because at that point they're much more invested than I am. So they were able to give me some extra capital to actually finish and actually open the building. that is actually kind of catching you back up. So when we got to this point, then when I tried to get to the banquet facility, we had already burned through anything extra that we had thought. We were, or I was personally, pretty much capped on what I could do, so I couldn't do anything anymore. We were running under the gun on the banquet facility being December 31st. This is the original date that we had stated when we first started this, even before all the delays. That was when we were hoping to get the banquet facility up and running. I took what I went back to Dave, I said, how can I get this done? This is what I need to make it done. This is the buck for. This is how I'm trying to make it happen. If this is the only way this happens, if at this point, I mean, we could wait 3 to 5 years and actually pull some of that debt out and actually get to the point where I'm right side up and I can be like, hey, let's go. But if we want it now, we want it under these conditions, this is what I gotta do. And I mean, I think it's still a great plan. I mean, I get asked for space constantly. Soccer teams, graduation parties, events, I mean, I know there's a need for it. I mean, I live here. This is why. I mean, I need to get the coach. I mean, I do a lot of sporting things, and I'm here. I mean, so I mean, I guess that's sort of catching up. Is there anything I missed? I talked fast.
That was all news to me, so
okay.
This was good. It was a good walkthrough, and I appreciate the explanation.
No problem.
How many full-time employees would you say you'll have when the banquet hall is open?
I'm at about 80, well, not full-time equivalency, I'm at about 44, I think 44 to 48 full-time equivalency. I have about 80. A lot of them are part-time. I have a lot of people that work somewhere else and pick up a shift or two as a server or in the kitchen. I'll probably be adding another, well, it depends on how, I guess, it depends on the community. But I will definitely be adding a banquet manager. I will add another couple of cooks to be able to handle it. I mean, probably anywhere from 8 to 10 more part-time, maybe 5 full-time equivalents.
And how many, not full-time equivalents, but how many full-time employees, how many 40-hour-a-week dedicated staff do you have?
18, 20 full-time, just all full-time work for me only, yeah.
Okay. And a question for you, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
So what I heard you say is that there is no money in TIF 4.
Correct.
So we're calling this a TIF 4 funding, but the truth is it's not going to be coming out of TIF.
Right, but you gotta run it through the TIF.
Right.
Right.
So we're going to take a loan, we're going to run it through TIF 4.
Correct.
To give it to headquarters. So if Jamie pays the interest on the loan that we're going to have to take, effectively, and I don't want to oversimplify this, but effectively, are we basically partnering with Jamie to get him the capital that he needs to finish the project at no cost to the village? Is that a fair thing to say?
Well, because there's no increment in TIF 4 to pay the debt service until the projects generate enough increment, the village's property taxpayers are fronting the loan, the debt service for the project.
So I want to try to get to the point where I understand what the cost is going to be to the village to partner with Jamie on this.
It would, well, if you borrow $68,000 over 10 years, it's about $1,600 a year plus interest. And so in that 10-year period, maybe 5 years through that, Jeff, the project itself starts to generate enough increment to pay the debt service. Well, then it's off. It's sort of off the village's levy. Then the TIF itself is covering it. Then. And actually, at some point, we may even pay the loan off early. It's possible. But for that initial period, when there's not enough increment being generated in a project, it's hitting the levy.
Does the increment ultimately catch itself up and pay off the full amount of the TIF that was advanced on the front?
Well, you could do that. Yeah, you could pay the general fund back or it should be the debt service back if you wanted to do that.
Is that how it normally works, or is it normally that you kind of absorb that cost in the first 5 years, knowing that this is going to be going on for the next 100 or however long headquarters is in business?
Right. I mean, the TIF force actually owes the village, the general fund, money, and we keep paying it back a little bit over a year because we actually had to front that TIF to get created. You know, it takes some money to get created, so there's already a charge from the general fund to the TIF already. So I guess I'd have to talk to Lisa about that if she would think that we'd have to do that. So yeah, for that initial 4 to 5 year period, should the village go back and once there's extra increment, you pay yourself back, or you'll leave the increment in TIF 4 to do projects. That's the other thought. I sometimes would lean just saying, because this TIF's limping along, I'd probably if all of a sudden in the 6th year, we actually are generating an increment where we can pay the debt service, we've paid ourselves back, I'd probably just leave the increment in the TIF. That's just my gut reaction to your question.
There's just, I don't think, because to catch you up as well, when I bought that land, it was actually a negative $250,000. Like, it was losing the village about $6,000 a year, because you were, well, not just on my property, I don't know about the rest of it, but just on my property, you were negative $6,000. So since I've actually been there, and now you're positive, like, even what I am paying back if this takes 4.5 years to pay back this whole thing, the whole loan, even though that's what I paid back, you've actually made almost an extra $30,000 because you're not going negative anymore. So I mean, just on that, it's already, and that's not even included in these calculations, because the way the TID works, it won't let you take the fact that I actually brought you from negative to positive and put that into it. So, I mean, we have already started taking you from that direction. So we're actually, before I was there was nothing bringing any increment positive on that property.
And when does TIF 4 close?
I'd have to, that's TIF 3. So I think, see, this was, I think TIF 4 was after TIF 3, I think. So probably 30, 33, something like that. It has a ways to go yet.
And how far out does TIF 4 go? The district itself?
Oh, the district is, there's a map up there if you want to, right next, on the bulletin board if you want to.
I can check it later.
Oh, okay.
Is it just from,
It's-
kind of from
it's-
MM East?
It's from east, it obviously includes Jamie, includes it goes down Park Street, where the whole potential hotel site, in sort of in that redevelopment area, Jeff.
So just east of Jamie, pretty much?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Those are all my questions.
Anything else? Okay, any other comments, Jamie? Okay, we'll go to item 4 then. The village board may adjourn into closed session during the meeting pursuant to Wisconsin statute, section 19.851E, to discuss the possible use of tax increment financing to build a banquet hall at Headquarters Restaurant in TIF number 4. So need a motion and second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Grenier,
Yes.
Boudreaux,
Yes.
Brennauer,
Yes.
Poole,
Yes.
Staton,
Yes.
Carpenter. Yes. Bollig,
Yes.
Okay, we'll go into closed session. We'll go across the hall.
Yep.
Good evening, everyone. We're back in open session, and I would ask Mr. Grace to make a report on our closed session.
So the board in closed session agreed to provide the $68,000 in a TIF loan. Okay, I'm sorry. Provide the 2-month extension to build the banquet hall. And in addition to paying interest, they also wanted, basically what we did with the Growmore, charge you 4% if we have to take a loan out. So it's $68,000, 2-month extension, and 4% interest on the loan.
Right. Would that be based on my property? So like Matt is planning on building his building. There's a possibility of most likely happening next spring of Matt Prescott building the Pinnacle.
Mm-hmm.
Would that affect this? It wouldn't. So even if that
We borrow $68,000 and we're paying, we're gonna charge you 4% for having to take that loan out.
Okay.
Nothing to do with Pinnacle, nope.
So even if I grow that property to 15 times what it would
The village is still losing money by having to borrow the money and give it to you.
even if
Yep.
okay.
Yep. Well, that's, the board should be answering, but I.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
So now.
So, part,
Am I under the gun here? Is this like
no, so
No.
then that's, if that's, that's what the board's position is, if that's something you can live with, then Matt Dragney, the village attorney, has to draft an agreement.
Okay, so I can
Right.
put it all in.
But we don't have another meeting until July 13th unless, so
Can Jamie go ahead with his project, I think is what he's asking.
that's up to him.
'Cause that would be, yeah, so if I go back and talk to Dave, Mr. Whitlock, and say, yep, we're good, this is acceptable, then even if, because I'm not getting anything for a while anyway, it's okay.
Well, that's up to you. The board has taken a vote to give this to you. And so, if you're comfortable doing it without a signed agreement from the village, that's your decision.
And to maybe ease your mind a little bit, we had a discussion about whether the board wanted to look at can I say this?
Yeah, I think we're okay.
Let's put it this way, the meat of the deal is that we're gonna give you the TIF, the 68,000, we're gonna give you the couple 2-3 month extensions that you requested to get the project done, because it's been a while before you've been able to get started. And instead of doing you pay us the interest for what we're borrowing, we're asking for 4%, period, just a flat 4%. So if that's agreeable to you, we're not gonna go back on that.
Okay.
And so the only thing that Matt's document is going to do is reiterate that,
Right.
In legalese, then with a bunch of flourishes and a couple more pages. Yeah. But it's not gonna deviate from this verbal agreement.
So James, it's more of your comfort level if you're comfortable going ahead without a signed agreement from the village.
Okay.
It's up to you.
No, okay, that's,
Yeah.
I guess I didn't know.
There's a handshake deal right now.
So what Jeff is saying is the big pieces are done.
Okay.
Looks like you agree to that.
Yes.
So
Yes, I do.
July 13th, there's not gonna be anything to pull the rug out from under you.
Right,
So if you wanna get going, you can get going.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to.
Fantastic.
Right? That's what we all agreed
Yeah.
to, right? Yeah. So, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That works? Okay? Okay. So we're done with that?
We are done with that.
Okay, item 6 is approval of minutes. There are none. Item 7, approval of vouchers. We have vouchers tonight in amount of $110,465.22.
Move approval.
Second.
Any questions?
Jerry, we're ready for you.
No,
Even
it's
though
pretty
Lisa's-
straightforward this week,
Oh.
we've been meeting every week, so, just not a whole lot here.
All right.
Small amount.
You should always be ready, though.
I know, we try to be.
Are there questions? Okay, so roll call, please.
Boudreaux,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Follig,
Yes.
Staton,
Yes.
Brett Howard,
Yes.
Poole,
Yes.
Grenier,
Yes.
Thank you. Item 8 is community input. Is there anyone who would like to address the board at this time? In any matter? Okay. Item 9, proclamations and announcements. A, board comments.
Don't forget the Summer Fest coming up, the 25th to the 28th.
Yep. So you just got signs all over town.
Yep.
Anything else, board? Staff comments? Mike?
Just the meeting schedule, we sort of talked about it, that the next board meeting would be July 13th, And I don't anticipate, unless we had to, having meetings on the 22nd and 29th, sort of take a little summer break here, if that's okay with the board.
What am I gonna do with those 2 nights?
I know. Well, and, I'm sorry, actually, I should say, actually, we'd have, also, we would not meet on July 6th. So the only thing I need to check is whether or not we may need to have a short meeting to approve some bills, so I'll have to talk to Beth about that, but, so, that's just good. So the next meeting would be July 13th, unless something comes up.
July 13th?
July 13th, yes.
Have to get retrained.
Yeah, we'll forget how to meet by then.
Yeah.
It's a long ways
Well,
away.
unless you want to have meetings, I can find things.
That's all right.
Yeah,
We'll go on to item 10.
Okay.
Well, the next time we meet, it won't be like a 6-hour job.
Yeah. Steve, I was wondering, if
Yeah.
could we go down to 11B1?
I'm gonna ask which one we needed to do.
Yeah. Just kind of.
So 11B1, the
Yeah,
planning
that's the,
commission. Okay,
that's the planning commission.
okay. So item 11 is report of committees. Item B is a plan commission from June 4th, 2015, and it is trustee Carpenter. Edie?
Yeah, let me go back to the agenda. Okay, so this is a discussion and possible action, or yes, right? Where am I?
It's, you know, but it's
Oh,
really,
it's a discussion, right?
Yeah, the plan commission didn't really, make a motion. It was just more of a consensus that they feel comfortable with this, and I think the developer is asking for that. Is the board comfortable with going to this type of plan development in this area?
Okay, so, there's a couple documents in your packet under 11B, and the developer's here tonight. We talked about this at the planning commission. The things that we liked about this development were, if you look at the map with all of the trees, one of the things that the planning commission did ask the developer was to save as many mature trees in this development as possible. So if you look at the map, the green dots are the trees that they're saving, and the red dots are the trees that are going. And they're at like, I think a 72% rate of saving the mature trees in those lots. The other thing that we talked about, you'll see on that map the different single-family lots, and then you'll also see adjacent to North Alpine Parkway, there are those the two big sort of rectangle lots that those would be for duplex condominium lots. And that's one thing that we talked about that we liked. So I guess if you have any questions, the developer's here tonight if you want to.
And we had a discussion, and Mark can kind of help me with this. We had a discussion about the road profile at planning and whether or not the developer should come and try to get a variance under the subdivision code, chapter 18. We went through this with Mike Slavin, and we all decided it made sense to do the plan development. The goal is to, as Jeannie's saying, save the trees. And when the developer went many years ago now to the Regional Planning Commission, they had to do stormwater improvements and more infiltration, this is why we're having swales in the area as part of the road profile versus storm sewer. I think this makes sense to do it this way. It's gonna be very nice subdivision.
Yeah, it sure seems that way.
And the planning commission, we had quite a long discussion. If you look at the last document in this packet of the actual map of the roadway, of the 66 feet of the roadway and then the swale, and there's a sidewalk on both sides. We did request the developer to have sidewalks on both sides. We thought that was important because that's a village policy, or maybe an unwritten policy, but a preference. And we like the look of this road as far as a more, I view it as a more modern urban way to save trees and, yeah.
The one change, if I may, Jeannie, is that the planning commission also asked the developer to add the 2 foot of concrete shoulder on there, and this plan does show that.
Yeah, okay.
Is this an opportunity maybe, when we go back a couple of meetings, we were talking about having the village's ash trees inventoried. Would this be an opportunity maybe to kind of direct the first audit of ash trees to this area and have the developer just take those out? The mature ash trees that need to come out anyway?
I don't know if there's a lot of ash in there. There's a lot of hickory and oak and maple in there.
They did a tree survey back in 07, 08, I believe. And so they're gonna have to take some trees out. I guess that's an interesting question. If they had a choice between an ash tree and an oak, would you take an ash tree down? I guess maybe You should address that better than me.
Welcome.
The map that we show, the red trees, the determination isn't currently made by type, it's just made by location. So if they're in the way of the road, then they're coming out, and the trees that you see are, on the lots that are red is up to the homeowner. We indicated a number that we thought was reasonable, given a sort of average, higher end home footprint, larger home footprint as to what they would remove. But the plan is just that each lot be assigned a number, each home lot be assigned a number that they need to preserve. So they could take out a different configuration of trees than what we showed, as long as they preserve the total number. And if more are removed, then they have to be replaced. So there's nothing in the plans currently that says what type we're going to have a preference for. So, in other words, I don't think there will be a choice from our standpoint. If the road goes there and the tree has to be removed, regardless of the type, it's going to get removed.
So that brings up an interesting question in my mind. When we were talking with the arborist.
Arborist?
The arborist.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about what we would do about privately owned ash trees. They're as dangerous to the village's ash tree population as publicly owned ash trees.
What we're doing is only ash trees on village property. It's not on private property at all.
So then would we look at this proposed development as private property, or would we look at it as public property at this juncture?
It's still private property.
It's private property, yeah.
Yeah, because right now they own it.
Yeah.
The only thing that the arborist, or the agreement that the village made with the arborist is, as Steve said, it's what's in the street right away, or in the parks, basically. Nothing to do with any private homeowners, ash trees at all. The homeowner is responsible for their own ash trees.
So the risk is to the homeowner, if their ash tree dies and it becomes a liability, they gotta figure out what to do about it, or it's gonna fall on their house.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I don't have the tree survey with me. Then I could actually tell you if there even are any. I'm not sure. It's mostly maple, mature trees there. We do have a tree survey that actually identifies them. So it's just not with me, unfortunately.
That's okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that makes sense to be those varieties, because most of the ash trees are trees that were planted when the elms died, right?
Correct.
That's where a lot of them came from.
True, that's true, Steve, yeah.
They're
And this
native
is a more original woods then.
They're native to Wisconsin, but
Yeah.
they're not
Yeah,
as popular as maples and oaks.
yeah. So the question is,
Just,
are we okay going with this?
yeah,
the
is
streets
there,
and-
the plan commission had thumbs up that this was a good,
Yeah.
to go into plan development made a lot of sense. With the board, and I think we're just saying for the developer's comfort level,
Yeah.
if the board's
Yeah.
okay with it, they'll start going ahead with the GDP and SIP and things like
So-
that.
I'll second.
Are we all
It's
okay with
coming
this?
as a motion.
There's no motion,
There's
it's just
not a motion, it's just kind of a
consensus.
FYI.
Oh,
nod of the head. Anybody have any problems with what is proposed here by Mr. Ladopoulos? Looks like you're all set.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
very much.
Should be a
you.
great development. We're looking
you.
forward to it.
Thank you very much.
Good location. Don't let Nick mess it up, okay? How are you doing, Nick? We haven't seen you for a long time. Good, good.
Grease.
Yeah.
We're not used to having Nick so quiet. We're not used to you being so quiet.
Don't, don't let him get a chainsaw. Yeah.
See you guys.
Okay, so now we go back to 10A.
Yes.
You've been running me all over.
Well, so here's your choice, either make Dan or Kyle wait, who are you gonna make wait, so. Kyle, we're going into closed session at the end, so if you go into closed session now, then Dan's gotta wait, so. I think we should probably keep an open session.
Okay. Okay, sorry, Kyle.
Okay.
This should go pretty fast. But I never know. You know, you're the only one.
That's your first mistake.
So is the meter running, or is it not running? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's running.
Okay, so 10A, discussion of possible action about hiring independent inspections to provide building inspection services and appointing a company as the village's building inspector.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Our building inspector resigned.
Correct.
And we're looking for a replacement, and we're looking for this. Can we do that? Staff has checked things out with other.
I mean, there's basically two companies, and the one other company really didn't respond to Mark's request. And so Mark and I were talking about this morning. I think if the board agrees with this, our approach would be is that we would hire the service, and then I would, you know, when the new public works director is on board, I would tell him or her that at the beginning of next March, they would come here and talk to the board about this service, whether or not we want to keep this company or go out for proposals, you know, which direction we would go with bill inspections. Because you have to give a 60-day notice you can terminate the agreement.
Okay. So any questions, comments?
I got a couple here. Did my comment about additional inspections?
We do have that already in the fee schedule. I did look at that the next day.
Okay.
I think it was $35 for
Okay.
inspection.
All right, so, and that, is that $35 what this company's gonna charge, or was this company was more?
No.
It was the same?
No, they're going by our fee schedule.
Okay.
Yeah, they're gonna follow, yeah, I'm sorry, I should know that, they're gonna follow the fee schedule, yeah.
And are they gonna have hours? I know I read through this whole thing and I was kind of, had a few questions. Are they gonna have hours upstairs for contractors to come in and talk to them, or are they going to be strictly call with somebody on a phone?
They'll be, well, they can set something up here, but it'll be up to the builder to schedule something.
Okay.
To schedule them upstairs.
Okay, so they won't be sitting upstairs?
We talked about that, and they didn't feel at this point it was necessary, but if it, as they move into this and get a good feel for it, that could possibly happen.
Okay, all right. And how much, just quickly, I don't know if you can answer this question or not, based on what we currently have versus going with this route, how much more is it gonna cost the village? Is the village gonna save, or is that a conversation we will have in a month or so after things get started?
When Lisa's back, I'm gonna ask her to do a little analysis, but we actually were talking about a little bit last week, and we think it, you know, when we come to the board and at budget time, we'll have a handle on what this is costing us versus if we would've had.
Cause I know with benefits and all that kind of stuff, you
Is it
can't answer it today, but I just am curious
Yeah,
as
we'll
to
be
what
tracking
will
that,
be.
absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Yep. And also too, I mean, just the level of service, are people happy with the service? I will tell you that I asked a number of administrators about this a couple of weeks ago when we got Mike's, that he was resigning. And, I mean, some communities have this company, some have general engineering. They're happy with both companies, so yeah.
So the phone connection will not delay issuing permits or review of permits then?
No.
I don't know all the rules here. When a contractor calls for an inspection, they're, what, is it 24 hours?
They actually got 48 hours.
48 hours. So this company can meet that requirement?
Yes. They have the inspector that they've got inspectors in Dane County.
Okay.
So no,
So is it gonna be the same inspector that handles typically us, or will there be one or two? Because I know we had information in there on a couple people and their background and their qualifications, that kind of stuff.
we were told that it would be primarily one inspector. Of course, they're gonna have backup if that person's on vacation or whatever, but one of the other good things about this, Mike and I have talked about, is if we start having problems with that inspector, or the builders have with that inspector, we can call a company up, pick up the phone and say, hey, we need a different inspector, this guy's not working out.
Okay.
We can do that.
That's good.
Anything else? Okay, so we have a motion second to hire independent inspections to provide our building inspection services and appointing them as the village's building inspector. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item B, discussion and possible action regarding approving an agreement with Epstein Yuhan Architects in the amount of $15,900 for space needs analysis, funding from TIF 3 and library impact fees.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments here from staff?
Just, I want to make sure the board realizes that at this point, we're just talking about the space needs study, not doing any building condition evaluation. You know, we'll even see if we end up doing that once the process is done. Okay.
Okay.
What's the balance in TIF 3 right now? Is there a fund balance in TIF 3?
There is, but it's There is, but you have to remember, there's money coming from TIF 2 to TIF 3 to pay debt service. So I mean, Lisa and I looked at this last week, and if the budget came in exactly on budget, we actually would generate about $7,000 surplus in TIF 3, but again, it's a little misleading because you're bringing in $80,000 from TIF 2 to pay debt service, so.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep,
So we're just looking at the $15,900?
yep, at this point, yes.
Anything further? We have a motion and a second to approve the agreement with Epstein Uhen Architects, the amount of $15,900 for space needs analysis, funding from TIF 3 and library impact fees. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item C, discussion of possible action regarding Vanderwall Civic Campus Plan proposal. That was at our place when we came tonight, so.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion?
Along the lines of
Jeannie.
this campus master plan proposal, have you had any further discussion about potential uses for this building? Do you have any information on that?
I haven't gotten around doing that. We were having another meeting, or we were looking at some other property, so, but I know I have it on my list to do. Yep. Can I just make a comment about this?
Certainly.
So, the space needs study, we sort of had in the budget because we were calling it the civic campus plan that's in TIF 3, so some of that was budgeted. So this is truly not budgeted at all, this part of the project. So when I received this, I ended up drafting an email back to Mike Slavny, and I said, well, Mike, what would happen if we did tasks 1, 2, and 3 this year, which adds up to $23,335, and then did the last couple tasks next year, which add up to $25,340, and split the cost, because, you know, we just don't have this type of money sitting around. Some of this we could charge to TIF 3. Again, that's a good question. Jerry asked me about how much money is in there, but some of this we're going to have to pay a little bit out of the general fund for this, and I think we could probably use some library impact fees. And I think we'll find a comfort level in that. But I really think it'd be very hard for the village to spend almost $50,000 of unbudgeted money. I just.
Well, this time of year, especially because we don't know the second half of the year.
Yeah, so if the board, if the motion passes, that I would ask that we split them up, and Mike said that was fine. The process could work.
Yeah.
I think that by my motion, basically gives you the latitude to make those kinds of decisions.
I just wanted the board to know that, because I know when Mike was here, he was talking about finishing everything by the end of the year, and I was sort of nervous about what this was gonna cost, and so.
I gulped when I saw this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think actually, Jeff, with that flexibility, then I think I'm gonna do it based on where the funding's available.
Yeah.
And I'll keep the board posted
Do you
on
need
that.
a motion to that effect?
If Peggy includes in the minutes, I'm comfortable with it, Jerry. Thank you.
So basically, we approved the motion to approve this, and we're saying that staff will direct the process timing-wise and
Okay.
so on going forward, right? That's okay with everybody? Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense, because they'll make it work financially, so. Okay.
Likely
Doug?
not go beyond 2016, though.
Yeah, no, we'll finish the next
Yeah.
It would be done
year
from
and
the
a
ground.
half.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we're making investments in this project, and I think we've already had the discussion about whether or not the project needs to be done. Now it's just a matter of doing all the groundwork necessary to understand the scope of the project and the implementation and what phases are what.
Exactly.
And I do think that we need to start engaging the community in this conversation. And I talked, Doug was nice enough to set up a visit for us down at the Goodman Center, and it was a great tour of the facility. I'd never been there before, but we had Allison there from the senior center. Who was it we had there from the youth center?
Chris Halverson.
Chris Halverson from the youth center was there. We had Julie and Linda Fuller from the Oregon Food Pantry there. So stakeholders, and I kind of challenged them, and I said, you need to get your centers of influence now rallied. And the library, I wish would have been there, but I would say the same thing to the library. You know, get your directors rallied around this and start to educate your constituents about the need for this, because I don't think it should all fall to the village.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, if this was just simply an idea that for 7 of us had, that would be a bad idea by definition, right? We're talking about the whole village here. So, so I think that we should continue to talk about this.
Yeah.
In task 1, the third item on that list there, open house. So right off the bat, Mike wants to hold an open house listening session, which is a good idea. And Doug, you make a really good point that this should be done in 2016 because you can't drag this out. You'll lose people along the way. So
yeah, things change too much.
Yeah. So we'll get it done next year.
And you got to build momentum,
and then you got to finish the plan. Yep.
Get the support.
Yep.
Good. Any further questions?
So maybe we could make this, can we make this a standing agenda item in terms of progress?
I made a note of that. Yep. Yep.
Anything else? So we have a motion second to approve Vanderwall Civic Campus Plan proposal. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item D is a thank you to Gary and Donna Dish for planting and maintaining flowers in the downtown area. They've done that since that started, right, Mark? Right. And I mean, they put in a lot of time. I've seen them working downtown.
Really looks
Other
nice.
folks have helped them too.
Very nice.
And we're very appreciative of what that's done.
We're going to get him a gift certificate.
Yeah. And we've done gift certificates for changing restaurants in Oregon over time. So as a thank you from us too.
Yeah, Mason's gift certificates don't go very far.
Item E, discussion of draft memorandum of understanding regarding jurisdictional transfer of county highways to the village and the board providing direction to staff.
So this is the draft in response to my email that we sent to the county, and then there was another email that came this afternoon from the county's corporate counsel office, and so I think she made some good changes to the agreement based on our email. The 3 things that are not addressed or maybe need to be addressed in the draft MOU is this whole idea that I think we told them that the village would want to take all the roads over once all the roads were fixed up versus doing it on an individual road basis. That's the first question. Jerry wanted the fish hatchery paving in there, and I don't know if you read her email, she is not in the MOU, and then she does not include anything about the levy adjustment, and that's what this most recent email discussed. So we talked to Matt about this last week. Matt had an attorney with his firm, Connie Anderson, who defended the Cities and Village Association last year, a year and a half ago, over a levy. It's a long story, I'm not gonna get, but basically that we won in front of an administrative judge. The county had to do a levy adjustment for a transfer of service. So I emailed Tony Roach, city administrator, about when they took over PD, did they ask for a levy adjustment, and he said they did not. So the reason I'm bringing all this up is that I think if we really wanted to pursue the levy adjustment, we're going to be on our own doing that. I don't think any other community's done that. Yeah. So I think what we determined, as well as Matt, is that we probably should think about pulling it out of this agreement if that's what the board decides, and sort of argue about that on the side, and possibly through the Cities and Village Association versus just doing it ourselves.
So keep the project going forward.
Well, that's a board decision. That's a board decision. So if you do that, then you've got this issue about, do we want to take a road over, like when they fixed Jefferson Street in 2016, we take that over when they fix this street, versus saying, no, we want to take, you fix all the streets in the next 4 years, and then we take them over. And then Jerry's point about moving up the paving of Fish Hatchery, the idea is that the bike trails out to Fish Hatchery and make it safer to ride.
I've got some more thoughts about that too. I went out there over the weekend and the bike trails punched through now. You can see exactly where it is. And if you look at the shoulders on Fish Hatchery along that area, they don't exist. I wonder about village liability, because that goes out, get a nice new bike path, gonna go out to Fish Hatchery Road, dumping people on a very unsafe road. And if the county wants to have an unsafe road, that should be their liability. So I think in the very minimum, I think we should ask for a release of accident liability.
Did you talk to Josh about this, Jerry?
I have a meeting with him on Friday,
Okay.
so. And I'll bring it up, but I think as part of this agreement, we asked for a release of liability. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but you know, if somebody gets hurt, or God forbid, severely injured or worse, I know if it was my family, I would sue everybody I could. The county, the village, especially when there's a nice new bike path coming out to the bad stretch of road. Those are my thoughts on that. If they don't wanna do the road, move it up a year, well, fine. I don't know that we wanna take the energy to fight that fight. I'll do my best on Friday.
Yeah.
But again, I think, if they're okay with having that unsafe stretch of road, then they should be okay with giving us a release of liability on that road.
That should be interesting, Jerry.
So talk with Josh, and, yeah, that'll be an interesting discussion.
Yeah.
So, and then what about the phasing? Does the board, care about just taking each road over once it's up to speed, so to speak?
Does it require a lot of paperwork or documentation? What sort of obstacles would there be?
It would just be in this agreement that we don't take all the roads over until all the county highways are up to, standard, or what's being proposed is that we take each road over once it's reconstructed, or repaved, or whatever you wanna call it.
Is Mark gonna stay until that gets all done?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
That's how we're gonna keep him here, Jerry.
I'd like to hear. How do you feel about that, Mark? All at once or one at a time?
Well, we talked about doing it all at once, and one of the reasons for that was so that they gave us time to add staff and equipment to take over these roads. Because we're short now, and we're gonna really be short when it comes to maintenance and snow removal, as far as, because they're gonna become a priority road. So we're gonna have to do those first, and the cul-de-sacs and the dead ends, of course, are gonna get slipped down the list that much farther time-wise.
Eric's gonna have to move.
But that was one of the reasons for doing it all at once.
How would you feel about,
Can I just, so when we brought this up, Jerry, excuse me to interrupt you, but they sent me a series of agreements from other communities. This is how they do it. Once they do the road, they give it to the community. So again, we're gonna be fighting upstream on this.
That's why they wanna do it, is to get rid of the road.
no, but I mean, you're only getting part of the picture. I know for a fact that they're still doing snow removal on PD.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. That's true.
After.
That is true.
After PD was turned over.
That is true. That's being delayed, that's right. Yep.
So, there are other ways to do
Okay,
this.
that's a good point. You're right. I
So
forgot about that.
If you're thinking about, there shouldn't be too much maintenance initially.
Other than snow removal.
So if we negotiate having them continue to do the snow removal.
That's not a bad
until
compromise. Yeah.
all the trunks are done, then Mark's plan about, getting ready for the additional labor and the additional equipment would play out to that.
It's not bad.
Plus, our trucks will go down those roads anyhow, right? When they plow, even though they become ours, but they'll go through town to get to other county roads, I
Well,
would
the county
guess.
will, absolutely.
Yeah,
At
so
least
just
a
put
good
the plow
quick
down.
Well, you laugh, but that's where they
Yeah.
take
That
their
would
breaks.
do it.
They take their breaks there.
Everyone needs coffee.
That's right. That's not a bad way. That's interesting because, once the road is fixed, how many years you go before you do crack filling, Mark?
So all you got,
Yeah. So you're really talking about snow removal, which is
that's all. That's
not
all they're
bad.
doing
Okay.
on PD.
Oh, that's not a bad. Okay.
It's a new road. Shouldn't need much other maintenance.
Yeah.
If they do it right. But Mark's gonna be around to make sure of that. So.
Poor Mark. Picking on Mark. So is that a good compromise for the board to say that we'll basically follow what Fitchburg did with PD, which is that we'll take the road over, but you're gonna snowplow it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That gives us time to get equipment and more personnel.
That's a really excellent idea. Yeah. Okay.
I hear things.
Anything else on item E?
I'm sorry, and then I guess, what is the board's feeling about the levy adjustment? Do you wanna just leave it out of the agreement and we'll fight that battle whenever?
Yeah.
Do you think it's a winning battle?
Mary's letter was pretty clear.
Or-
Yeah, but-
If you
Yeah.
want to fight it, the whole thing comes apart,
Yeah.
was the gist of her letter.
You know, yeah, I don't know why she had a,
She's just the attorney.
it would actually be interesting it'd be interesting to like actually go through that, but Matt did not know off the top of his head whether or not we would win.
Yeah.
Actually,
We
This is
would
like-
be paying Matt, right?
Well, that's
Enjoy that.
right, versus
Yeah.
let the association, if we ever let the
Yeah.
association do it, because then the association's paying the attorney.
Yeah.
You know.
What about the release of liability, though?
I'll put that in there.
Okay.
But we're gonna talk about the snow plowing and release of liability, right?
Yeah. And don't let them tell you that it's never been done before with the snowplow.
No, I actually remember that now. I've got the Fitchburg agreement, Jerry. Yeah, that was good.
So anything else on 10E?
But I'm just gonna wait, Jerry, I'm gonna wait for you to meet with Josh on Friday
Yeah.
before I say anything.
That's fine, I'll
Okay.
call you.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So item F, launching of Village's Facebook page.
Just wanted to tell you that Candy, we did that, I think it was last week. And, we're already using it. She did a great job getting us up and
Great.
running.
Yeah, give her our thanks, please.
I would do that.
Item G, discussion of road maintenance work schedule. Mark?
Candy put this map together for you. I think it'll be on the website. I think she may even gonna be distributed. It talks about the 3 projects, the mills and overlays, the Netherwood project, watering project, Market Street, and, Janesville Street. Gives timelines when the work is gonna be done. I think it'll be helpful.
And we'll do one more, which is when we're gonna do the, Braun Road, crossing.
Yeah.
We'll do another one.
Okay. Any questions?
Oh,
I believe there's an error on the map, just FYI. The first page of the map where the 10G is that Netherwood Street at the very bottom of the map? It seems,
No, you're right. That's actually, Oakwood. We'll get that changed. Thank you, Jeff.
is that your question, Susan?
No, I have one quick.
Oh.
Would I be allowed to go back for a comment on E or C?
Sure.
Okay, I'm so sorry to interrupt, just 1 second. I didn't know Jeff, that you all were going to Goodman. I didn't know, so if I had known, I would have gone. But I think that it is a very interesting center. I think they have a lot of smaller rooms. I've been there several times, but if you're going to go see somewhere else, again, I would love to go. If you just include me, that would be great.
I apologize for the oversight.
Okay, but, I'd love to go if you let me know. Thank you.
And I wasn't trying to throw you under the bus.
Well, I felt like I had a few tread marks, but I just wanted to make sure.
I apologize.
Okay.
It's a group effort, and I just want to make sure you're included, so I'm glad that you brought that up.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're welcome,
But
Susan.
I take responsibility for that.
Doug's taking responsibility for that.
No, it's just, I have a different email too, so maybe I didn't know if that was part of the problem, so, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Susan. Okay, item 11, report of committees. We have the Park Board, June 3rd, 2015. Trustee Brett Hauer.
The Park Board recommended approval of hiring JSD Professional Services to put together a master plan for the Keller Alpine Meadows Park. The packet itself is in the packet, tonight's packet, and a summary of their proposed process can be found toward the back part of the proposal. And it includes, I think, many of the planning elements we want to see, and that is involving public input in several points during the whole process.
Okay, so that comes as a motion. We need a second, please.
A second.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Just a reminder to the board that the school district is sharing these costs with us.
Is that total 12,000, or is that our portion of the
That's total.
cost? Okay, so we're half that. Okay.
Anything else? So we have motion second to approve hiring JSD Professional Services for planning for Keller Alpine Meadows Park. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, we've done. Item 12, minutes not requiring action from the Oregon Area Fire EMS District, April 9th, 2015. Those are in the packet if people wish to see that. Item 13 is unfinished business. There is none. Item 14, new business. A, approval of pending new operator license. These are approved by the Police Department for Alpine Liquors, Teresa Tobias. Can we do all these at once? Doesn't sound like it.
They're all a little different.
Oh,
Yeah,
you know what? No,
okay.
I'm sorry. You
Because
need,
there's renewal.
You gotta do the one that says pending and then one read. You got a
Okay.
separate motion,
Okay.
please.
So we need a motion second for 14A.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item B, approval of renewal operator licenses. Again, these are approved by the police department for Oregon Bowl, Karen Daney, and Thomas Porter. And Quick Trip number 372, Stephen Ostry, Melissa Rice, and Michelle Finstead.
So move.
You got Bill's Food Center there as well.
Oh, I didn't turn the page. Thank you. Bill's Food Center, Brian White Stout, and Travis Mobley, so we'll include that too. So we have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item C, approval of renewal operator licenses. These are pending approval by the police department for Oregon Bowl, Corey Henriksen and Lori Johnson, for J.O. Richards, Loretta Evert, and Melody Evert, and for headquarters, Justin Hale and Kyle Flanagan.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. There are 3 future agenda items listed, which the public can find online if they wish to see those. Item 16, the village board may adjourn into closed session during the meeting pursuant to Wisconsin statute, section 19.851C, to discuss performance evaluation data regarding a village employee. The board will adjourn from closed session.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Staton,
Yes.
Pollock,
Yes.
Brethauer,
Yes.
Poole,
Yes.
Grenier,
Yes.
Boudreaux.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll go into closed session. Unhook the mic.
Crane, you are a conductor on the P&M Railroad, are you not?
Yes, sir.
I understand that some months ago you witnessed a strange meeting which took place on board a train. Would you mind telling us about it?
Well, it was a late train pulling out of the P&M station for Los Angeles.